The week in between when you did your main draft and when the season actually starts, I'm looking at players. I'm trying to see if there's any news, if anybody's popping off. I'm trying to validate my picks. Brian Robinson Jr. is one of those guys where I picked him in the end of my draft, and I have big expectations, man. The unsafe thoughts start to creep into my head. I start to see Austin Ekeler highlights. I start to see analysts on Twitter talk about how Ekeler is going to be the guy for them. I see their strength of schedule. I'm concerned. So I'm like, you know what? I want to create my own thesis. I want to do my own research and see what's really going to happen in this backfield. Is it going to be Brian Robinson? Is it going to be Ekeler? Are they both going to be bad? Anything's possible, man. In this video, I'm going to go through Brian Robinson's profile, the situation for the Commanders in general. We're going to talk about Ekeler. We're going to talk about Jayden Daniels and the effect that mobile QBs have on running backs. By the end of this video, hopefully you guys come away with a little bit more positivity or optimism about Brian Robinson. Before I get into the video, I do want to say thank you to everyone that subscribed. We're almost at 300 subs. I've been pushing out content pretty consistently, finally seeing some traction. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed.
Because I love it in here. I fucking love it!
Welcome to Fantasy Flow. I am Ron, and before I waste any more of your guys' time, let's hop into this video. So as I mentioned, guys, we're going to talk about Brian Robinson Jr.'s profile first. Last season, in 15 games played, he was the RB22. He had 178 rush attempts, so not an incredible workload, for only 733 yards, unfortunately, 5 rushing touchdowns. He had 43 targets. Surprisingly, he was never really known as a receiving back. 36 receptions for 368 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. And he shared that backfield with Gibson, so he was hovering around like the 50% snap share rate pretty much the whole season. In one of my past videos, I constructed like a prototypical persona or an avatar of what a top 12 running back looks like for the past 3 seasons. What I came away with was that they're usually between, age 25. They play usually 16 games. They get 60 targets, 48 receptions or so, 379-ish receiving yards. So these are just averages, keep in mind. Like, obviously, your CMCs blow these out of the water, but then your number 12 running back is obviously somewhere at the lower end. They usually get like 246 carries. They get 9.8 rushing touchdowns. So that's a number that you really want to hit if you're a top 12 running back for the most part. 4.5 yards per carry. And then there's a couple other like tertiary metrics like rush touchdown percentage. So of the team's red zone rushing touchdowns, did they get most of them inside the 5 rush carries? So dudes who had a lot of attempts inside the 5-yard line. Anyway, that's essentially a good sign in my opinion. I know a lot of people would be like, well, he's missing the mark on most of these. Now, you have to keep in mind, he was in a shared backfield. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. He needs to double that up. He needs a little bit more targets and receptions, but he clears it on the receiving touchdowns. So moving on to the PFF player profile or the player grades from last season. This is to me like a good illuminating thing to look at. If you just want to look at like how good was this player in a vacuum last season, right? So Brian Robinson ranked 23rd out of all running backs last season. Pretty middle of the pack in most metrics, which you could say is a bad thing, but I would say it's like, listen, he's doing his job. Like, he's middle of the pack. He scores a 75, 73 in rushing, 71 in receiving, 61 in pass blocking, 65 in rush blocking. So played a decent amount of snaps where it's pretty statistically significant. Now, on the flip side, we're going to look at Austin Ekeler now. So Austin Ekeler scores 55th, dude, and puts him among names like Boston Scott, Pierre Strong, Patrick Taylor, Tyrion Davis-Price, Tony Jones Jr., Sir Roderick, dude. Sir Roderick Thompson. If you're among guys like Sir Roderick Thompson, something went wrong. And I know what everybody's going to say. People are probably already screaming it at the screen. High ankle sprain. Yeah, I know. After week 1, he had a high ankle sprain. Keep in mind, Austin Ekeler in week 1 for the Chargers had like 25 fantasy points. Sprains his ankle in that game. Didn't really look the same. So I understand the counter argument that Ekeler should be healthy now, but I think I don't negate that fully, but I negate it somewhat because of his age. I do think like, yeah, he might be healthy, but he's also a little bit older, and who knows if he's really back to like, legit Austin Ekeler vibes. So that does it for pretty much the that does it for their profiles. We're going to talk a little bit more about each player and kind of more about their profiles, but I want to share with you guys 2 facts. So the first fact is that receiving backs suffer with mobile quarterbacks. So that's fact number 1. Keep that in mind. So per Mass Live, there's an article that was written in 2023. So it was written last offseason. Mobile quarterbacks tend to avoid checking down to backs because they can simply take off and run. In 2022, The Eagles, Bears, and Ravens, who was Jalen Hurts, Fields, and Lamar Jackson, all led by extremely athletic quarterbacks, ranked in the bottom 4 of the league in total targets to running backs per Fantasy Pros. So what is that telling us? That's telling us that with mobile QBs, they don't check down. They don't pass to their running backs. So fact number 2, mobile QBs help early down backs. So also from that same article, defenses must always account for the quarterback as a rusher, which holds the linebackers and opens up massive running lanes on read option plays. In 2022, 15 running backs averaged better than 3 yards before contact per carry, minimum of 50 attempts per Pro Football Reference. Say that 5 times fast. More than half the list was comprised of running backs with mobile quarterbacks. And this is a list of the mobile quarterbacks who got at least 3 yards before contact. So what that's telling you is that linebackers are frozen, dude. They're frozen in their boots, waiting to see what's going to happen. Is the QB going to take off and run? I have to stick in my lane and stay back here to see what happens. That's essentially what the thesis is. So you have all these running backs. Most of them were running backs that played with mobile quarterbacks. So what do these 2 facts tell us, man? These 2 facts, that receiving backs suffer from mobile QBs and mobile QBs help early down backs. Or that's my takeaway at least. It's that in an offense like the Commanders, which is going to be headed by Jayden Daniels, a mobile quarterback that can pass the ball, but he's also a rookie. So those are like 5 different variables there. So if receiving backs suffer from mobile QBs, and we're expecting Austin Ekeler to be pretty much the receiving back, or maybe he'll be like a versatile kind of combo back, but mostly a receiving back, that's bad news for Ekeler, right? So that's 1 strike against Ekeler. If mobile QBs help early down backs because it helps the backs that are running in between tackles, it gives them a little bit more time before they're contacted. That's 1 strike for Brian Robinson Jr., right? In my opinion. And it's, I don't know, to me, like the thesis is starting to form that it seems like Brian Robinson Jr. is going to benefit the most from the fact that he's got a mobile quarterback. So that's my one big takeaway. That's my one big like piece of information or piece of research that I'm going to lean on in this. So the next thing we want to look at, back to kind of, as I mentioned, we talked about profile. Now let's talk about situation. This is their strength of schedule. So for quarterbacks, 23rd, for running backs, 29th, for wide receivers, 18th, for 10 and 26, and they're projected to be 7 and 10. So an absolutely brutal situation that they're in. Their strength of schedule is very difficult. They're going to be facing a lot of difficult teams. Now, what's the takeaway from that? What can we hypothesize? We can hypothesize that they're going to be a negative game script, which means Ekeler is going to be on the field a lot. That might be true, but we have seen that Brian Robinson Jr., as I mentioned earlier, had quite a lot of receptions for a dude who was known as not being a receiving back. And the reason for that is that he has improved tremendously in terms of being a receiving back. So a mobile quarterback means they won't pass to receiving backs very much, but they're going to be a neutral game script. So they're going to need to throw to the quarterback, to the running back. Brian Robinson's good at doing both. So to me, it's like, might as well keep him on the field then, right? If we're not going to pass to the running backs anyway, let's just keep the dude who has shown improvement and is good at doing it. Let's just keep him on the field. Maybe that's like flawed thinking. Maybe you guys are probably watching this or listening to this and thinking, nah, that means Ekeler's going to be on the field all the time. They're going to be forced to throw to the running backs. Maybe they just force the run. Maybe they don't throw to the running backs at all. They just do a lot of option plays. Maybe they're not as bad as we think. Maybe their offense actually hums with Jayden Daniels, who, in my opinion, has looked really good in the preseason. I know it's only preseason, but so this is the kind of the situation around Jayden Daniels. So he's a rookie quarterback, right? So as I mentioned, that could be problematic. Just they don't tend to check down to running backs very much in general. Pair that with the fact that he is a mobile QB. But I will say we're kind of jumping the gun on this whole like mobile quarterback. Jayden Daniels is a mobile QB thing. The thing is, Jayden Daniels is a mobile QB, but he's not a run first QB. He is a really good passer. He's not one of these power rushers like Josh Allen, Cam Newton, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hurts, these guys that can like go through the line of scrimmage, right, through the offensive line, pick up extra yards, stiff arm people. He's really much more of like a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray type, which means, and it's really not as bad for running backs, especially because we've seen that in previous years. We've seen guys like James Conner, right, for Kyler Murray. We've seen the 83,000 different running backs that have played with Lamar Jackson. All of them have really been able to produce. And we're talking about dudes who are like very traditional, kind of like sluggish running backs, like the Latavius Murrays of the world. And I'm going to say this, dude. I think Jayden Daniels, his game matches Lamar Jackson's very much. I think they have a very similar style of like mobile quarterback. And we saw a lot of dudes who were very successful with Lamar Jackson, included Gus Edwards, plotter, slow plotter, in between the tackles guy. We saw Latavius Murray in between the tackles guy. It's always like these in between the tackles. It's never these like versatile receiving backs. Now we're going to do a little bit of film session, guys. We're going to watch a quick clip. And this is kind of to show you what I mean about Jayden Daniels. So hopefully it's not too loud. So this is an option play, options to Ekeler, and wide open. Dude, the C is absolute part for Jayden Daniels. Now notice how, real quick before we keep watching, the thing that I want to comment on that is that defenses are going to know that that's happening, and the linebackers are going to be frozen, dude. So if you look at this clip one more time, like they really eat, or they really bite on this Ekeler motion. So Ekeler, the fake rush, all the linebackers, and then by then it's over. It's over. Like you see number 23 kind of, he hesitates for a second. He's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then he goes, and by then Jayden Daniels is gone. So that's the first clip. We're going to watch the second clip. This is the second option edge run. Now, inconveniently, all of these plays have Austin Ekeler as the back in the game. So that's a little bit concerning. Hopefully they don't only use the option. So here, anyway, here's another one. So option to Ekeler, again, fake to the right, absolute like Caesar parter. It's a free 15-yard rush. Now we're gonna watch, this isn't a Jayden Daniels video, so I'm not gonna watch too much Jayden Daniels footage, but that's just to show you guys that like, because of Jayden Daniels' presence as an option runner, like it's going to keep defenses honest, and they're not going to be able to crowd the line of scrimmage like you typically would for like a rookie quarterback. And I think that's going to keep lanes open. And this difficult strength of schedule that we see here, all these red marks, I think it's not going to be as much of an issue. I think guys like Jayden Daniels, Kyler Murray, like they can operate within these constraints. I really do think that. And kind of my, bringing it back to Brian Robinson, he's very shifty and he runs vertically. He's more of a one cut back, which I think would work perfect, as I mentioned, with guys like Lamar Jackson, all the running backs that were successful with him. I think Brian Robinson kind of fits perfectly with that. And we're going to watch some Brian Robinson highlights. It's a minute clip. This is just from the preseason. You see, he finds the holes really well. So that's something that he did well last year as well. Here's a typical pitch to the left, opens it up. Offensive line does well enough, right? He gets like a nice little 6-7 yard chunk. Here's another one. Brian Robinson lined up out back. One cut, gets a lot of yardage after contact, falls forward. That's something Brian Robinson always been good at. Another play, inside tackle, just a nice little 3-4 yard run. He usually falls forward, follows his big blockers. Here's another one, another inside run, chips it to the outside, breaks the first tackle, gets to the line, gets to the first down. So Brian Robinson, he's not like jumping off the screen. He's not incredible. Another one cut, boom, two cut. He makes dudes miss. I know it's preseason, but you love it, man. You love to see it, right? 4 yard per carry average, 7.3 in week 2. I mean, who gives a fuck about that, right? Yards per carry doesn't matter in the preseason, but he's shifty, man. He's shifty enough for a dude his size. He runs vertically. He's more of a one cut back. I think he's gonna eat, dude. I think he's gonna be the guy for them. I just think that Austin Ekeler, coming off of a really bad season, being a little bit older, being a receiving back, all of those factors, those facts that I shared with you guys, I think it leads to the conclusion that Brian Robinson is going to be an absolute steal. I think you guys should be trying to trade for him now before the season starts. I had him 14 spots above ADP just after a guy like Jaylen Warren, if that gives you any type of a confidence. And, I'm feeling good about my pick, man. Like, I would say that if you have Austin Ekeler, who was usually drafted before Brian Robinson, I would even try to trade him for Brian Robinson. You might even get like an extra piece back with it. Like, you could probably downgrade at Ekeler. So, for example, here's a trade that I would do. I would trade Austin Ekeler, or let's say I'm the Ekeler owner. I'd Ekeler and whatever, dude. Throw in like a random piece. Get Brian Robinson plus something. You can usually get something with Brian Robinson for Ekeler right now. I know there's only like a 1 round difference between them, but it might be just enough that people are a little bit worried about, like, tell the owner that the strength of schedule looks brutal. Oh my God, did you guys see 29th strength of schedule for the Commanders? Brian Robinson's going to be cheeks. So, make it sweet, dude. So those are my thoughts on Brian Robinson, man. I hope you guys liked the video. Hope you found some value from this. If you did find some value, I'd really appreciate a like and a sub. Let me know if there's any other player that you guys want me to do a little deep dive on. We'll do some tape. We'll watch some game film. Look at their profiles. Look at their situations. I'm going to be doing this type of stuff all season when it comes to like trade targets moving forward. So if you guys did like it, man, I'd really appreciate a like and a sub. Trying to get to 300 before the season starts. That's in 2 days. Or tomorrow night. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it would be super sick if it did. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.